Hi, everybody. It's Ron again with another day of looking at the headlines, giving them some context and commentary where available. And as you'll see from the thumbnail, I'm using one of those new crazy thumbnails like all the sites that have 10 million subscribers have. They've got 10 million. I've got 10. But I'm on my way. That's how I look at it. No, I've got about 180. But if you're watching this, subscribe to this site, maybe hit a like. I think as this year is ending and going forward into the election year, we need more talking about the context of what's being fed to us in the news. So here we have again the beginning of the page, and we see in all these, any kind of news aggregation sites, the Ukrainian and Russian war might as well not even be on. It's knocked off the pages by the new war, the new, better and improved war that has really engagement among people, because a lot of people have strong opinions about, Israel and the Palestinians or Hamas fighting. With the Ukraine-Russia war, they basically said, I think I've heard of Ukraine before. So anyway, so we have some more ethical questions about the war, more slaughter going on. But the big news, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday, was there were elections in the United States, and the upshot of the election, as we will see down here, was a lot of wins for Democrats and a lot of losses for, if not Republicans, for the Trump, the so-called MAGA, M-A-G-A, that group, it's Make America Great Again people. And it was a lot of losses around abortion, that issue. Now, if we remember, earlier the Supreme Court overturned a long-standing ruling on abortion, the Roe v. Wade ruling. Now, my entire life, when I was taught about this in school, or anyone talked about it, this was based on something about a viability of the fetus at a certain number of weeks, and meaning before that, it was safe to abort it because it wasn't really a person or something like that. And everybody always said, that's a really scary precedent to have this important rulings seated on, because since the ruling was made in the early 70s, a lot of technology has changed, and so the time of viability has gotten further back. So that in time, so that would mean someone could look at this ruling and say, well, now we have a viable fetus much earlier, and it could be a pretext to overturn that abortion ruling. And for whatever reason, the Supreme Court overturned that long-standing ruling, which is a little bit unusual. I suppose abortion itself is a sort of unusual thing, since it does involve abortion, the death or removal of a fetus, a potential human. So, I think what we can see from the election results in America, while a lot of America may be conservative, I think the watchword, if you're looking at politics of how to conduct yourself, you might say the watchword for politics is, in the United States, if you were going to reduce it down, and this is reductive, but if you're going to reduce it down, you would say it has to do with liberty. Americans generally want liberty to perform abortions if they want to. They want the liberty to carry guns around if they want to. There's a lot of things like that, even in the moves in the last few years, where we have marijuana becoming legal, other drugs. It seems like if you go towards a little bit more freedom that people have, you probably will not go wrong. So here we have, right after the elections, we have these Republican people who are vying for the nomination against Trump. And of course, Trump isn't showing up. He has the legal problems, but he's really far out ahead, and he can make appear monarch like by not appearing in these debates. So again, this has why this is all very much trumped up in the press. And as I've talked about in the last few shows, the smoke-filled room, that is the party bigwigs behind the scenes. And in the past, you would think of these guys smoking cigars in a closed room. They really probably, and I think I would bet on it that they'd like to shift Trump out of the running and move to somebody else. And the evidence of that is the governor of Iowa in the lead up to the Iowa caucuses endorsing DeSantis. DeSantis is sort of, we thought, was a spent force in the election process. So while maybe the Republicans possibly would think, oh, we could ride to an easy victory over Biden with Trump, maybe all things considered, he's not the right choice, because a lot of people not sure if Biden, there'll be some kind of a switcheroo, if he can even live that long to run again. You know, Trump has all of those crazy, as I say again and again, unforced errors with his conduct. So here we have battle of the debates. When I was younger, I enjoyed these, but now they're people screaming at each other and acting stupid. Here's some poll. This is a completely unscientific poll because it's people who would check this right-wing website. This is a Trump Drudge. I always say one for the other. Some people would say they're the same. You know, there's a whole story about why I chose Drudge to talk about the headlines every day. That's in the very first video in this series. The link to that is, well, I'll put in the description. But it's important because it presents a lot of hot button stories to a lot of the media around the United States who look at this. But, you know, here we have Nikki Haley with that woman, and DeSantis is in the middle. We'll see. I've said before, we'll wait a couple months and see how things whittle themselves down on this before really trying to, assign any meaning to any of this. All I know is the smoke-filled room is in effect to get one of these people at the debates to replace Trump in the primaries. See, here's some of the things they're saying. You're scum. Haley slams that other guy. Somebody calling the Ukrainian president a Nazi. You know, here we have Hillary Clinton sounding alarm on second term will be the end of our country. It is interesting that she's come out. I've even heard rumors of a run from her, which would be quite amazing. She has quite high negatives, has always had some, just like Trump has had. But her appearance, I think we'll see more voices on both sides of the aisle as the primaries near to see if somebody can gain some traction to either replace the kind of damaged candidacies of Trump or Biden. More about the election. Biden problems loom. We all know about that. This is really scary stuff here. And what the AI architects have done, they've created this thing that you can make perhaps perfect photos that are undetectable as fakes. And this completely factors into the elections. There's many in the United States who have warned that or thought that there was foreign interference through the media, through the social media in the United States election, both in the 2020 and the 2016 elections. And if you have more propaganda pictures, more stuff that people are showing on Twitter, you could increase that misinformation and the disinformation. You know, in the past, we had a lot more open discourse where people could come out and say, hey, this is not true. And for a while, it seemed like a lot of false beliefs might fall beside the wayside because of this sort of open discussion of things on the internet. Perhaps the example might be something like Wikipedia, where you edit it, and it often comes to a sort of a reasonable medium ground on most of these issues. But at some point, we had the Trump presidency, and we had social media. Apparently, in some cases, that colluded later on with maybe when Biden came in 22, to make sure that certain opinions about the pandemic and all this stuff were either erased from the site or had a big message that said they were misinformation. And I think then with the Trump side, which very often openly touted crazy things, and the people who cheered for it knew they were crazy, but they liked to see the other side lose their minds over it. All of this conspired to create on both sides a distrust of the media and what they see in the press. And this thing with AI is more troubling still. This was more about the elections yesterday, MAGA election nightmares. Again, for many decades, that Supreme Court ruling that was overturned for abortion in the United States, it stood, and the Democrats, maybe with some Republican support, at any time could have codified that in law or put it in the Constitution to protect it. They many times, off and on, you have the votes as fortunes wane and come back. But in that time, nobody did. And so that left it on a very tenuous foundation that was overturned by the Supreme Court. And then I think there was a great big mistake. And this may be the message of the Republican elections, the elections the other day when the Republicans didn't do so good in key abortion questions. A lot of more conservative states, conservative governors cracked down really hard on the right to an abortion, because all the Supreme Court ruling did was it removed the federal protection of a woman's right to have an abortion. It dropped it back to the states to regulate it in whatever way they wanted to. So again, back to that thing I said at the beginning of liberty. Maybe some people were not too upset about the overturning of Roe v. Wade and, regulation of abortion at the state level. Maybe some states would be more liberal, it'd be more restrictive. But quite a few states enacted really outrageously strict bans on abortion, even in cases when a woman's life might be in danger, or a kid was impregnated, underaged by a rapist, this sort of thing. This was most reasonable people would think that's way too far to restrict it. And the Republicans got a message in the elections about it. The actors' strike over. Finally, I think there was some sense, even some dissension from some of the actors, that they just needed to wrap this up quickly. Not that interested in it, but it's somewhat interesting. Here we have Warner Brothers down. We have Disney in trouble. A lot of money lost on streaming, as all these companies put in money on very elaborate television shows that look like movies. They say it was peak TV. I don't think the shows were on balance that good in the last eight or so years. But then when the COVID started and the streaming era started, they piled money into these shows and movies without maybe a lot of creative magic, a lot of dull reboots, and now they're reaping that. It's a lot of more gross stuff about sexual harassment, typically alarm from a long time ago. People, I guess, just getting the courage to talk about it. I suppose that's all right. Mafia stuff. More stuff about politics. It's playing, the impeachment is playing politics with politics, I think, in many cases. Trans Catholics can be baptized. Nothing surprises me anymore. Doesn't mean anything to me. And Roseanne Barr being crazy. I don't like what any of, sometimes when people are being rude, but as an American, I somehow value crazy straight talkers who are condemned for what they say. I think we're taught in America to value freedom of speech more over anything else. Ivanka, this is the Trump trials that are going on. Odds and ends, a brothel. This is DOJ announces arrest in high-end brothel network. How many people are going to go over this without clicking it? This is a clickbait thing. People are fascinated by sex. But we're not going to click it here today. We're going to resist. It's the same thing that always happens in the world. These raids. Now, this is tremendous. I don't know why I've always been crazy about the airship era. I think I'm in some sort of a group where people post memorabilia from this era. This is the kind of Hindenburg area, the World War I and after. We have these fantastic lighter than airships. And isn't this the thing? If you had $1 billion and you were playing around with it, this would be the cool thing you would want to make. You'd want to put your money into, in the same way Musk does the cool things with his money. Private rocket ships that fly into space and electric cars. To challenge some of the biggest and most powerful companies in the world, the auto industry. Somebody attacked by a giant snake. It's another one that's hard to go by without clicking. Here we have some Ukraine. Ukraine does appear here. Stalemate tests Zelensky and top general. West increasing risk of weapons of mass destruction being used. That would be a real turning point in world history if that were to happen. Let's hope it doesn't. Anyway, that's today's. Today's news was a little bit heavier on the primary ramping up here, and this is going to be critical. Usually at this time in the cycle, we'll have elections about 1 year from now for the presidency. Usually we got a pretty good idea of who's going to run, who might be the nominee. Now it's all up in the air, despite Biden and Trump seemingly being in the lead. So we'll see here. This is my book. This is my novel of Bangkok. It's called There Are Still Unknown Places. It's about life, the yearning, the hopes of people who live in a concrete city in the modern day that's always changing. And I hope I designed it to be a definitive work on the mood and the tone of modern Thailand, modern Bangkok. It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. If you like it, you can buy it there and let me know what you think about it. I wanted to test this. Now I'm big, probably too big. I'm going to go smaller again. I'm slowly working out this software. So anyway, that's the news for today. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want to. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.